Kybalion, a conversation by Julie Benetti and Susan Barbaro, is a production of EI Publishing in association with EI Alliance, copyright 2018. Visit eipublishing.com for more. Music for this series is courtesy of New Threads, copyright 2018, from their self-titled album, available now. We are talking about the Kybalion. It's a discussion and a conversation. I'm Julie Benetti.
I'm Susan Barbaro.
And we are on the sixth principle, the principle of cause and effect. And reading from the book, The Kybalion by Three Initiates, the very first part of the principle says, every cause has its effect. Every effect has its cause. Everything happens according to law. Chance is but a name for law not recognized. There are many planes of causation, but nothing escapes the law. And the basic gist that I get from this principle, I mean, we all hear about cause and effect. Oh, that's, cause and effect, that's what happens. Is that not only does everything happen for a reason, but there are many causes as to what occurs. And what occurs is the effect. And there are also causes, but there are also effects that occur after the causes as well. So having this principle kind of sets, when you look at the principle of mentalism and vibration and polarity and all the principles we've been talking about. Correspondence, right. It all relates to, okay, so, you're really kind of almost training the mental to have an understanding and an awareness of what's going on. And then once you have that, to utilize these principles as tools, and an understanding of cause and effect can help you realize when something happens that there was a cause for that effect to occur. And because that happened, there's also going to be another effect.
Well, the first thing I get when I do this is I understand that there is no the idea of chance and luck and all these extraneous forms of things that people say, aren't really true. Mm-hmm. They're all, it's the butterfly effect when, the simplest thing, a butterfly in the coast of Africa flaps its wings. It has an effect on the wind, which travels over the ocean, which can create a huge, hurricane. It can have astronomical effects from something so simple. And it says in here, one of the things is that there is no great or small effect in terms of the all. When you look at things, that everything leads to something else. And so part of it is that understanding is that cause has effect, and sometimes when you're in the midst of something you might not realize it, but eventually you will understand it better, and from that, as horrific or as grandiose an event as it was, it's there to move you forward as well. I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit with, because it doesn't specifically say that in the Kybalion, but that the events that lead up to something are also not random. They're not random events, that they were, I don't want to say planted, but everything leads up to everything so perfectly that if you had the foreknowledge to say, I'm doing this today, and we have no idea what the consequences or effects of what we do right here, right now, can create.
Right. And they give a wonderful example. It's not quite scientific, but everyone has tried this. You flip a coin, and going back into the whole idea of chance, you flip a coin, and if you flip it an amount of times, it's going to come out, half and half. There's going to be a cause and effect for what occurs. And it's going to come out meaning half and half, heads and tails. It's not going to be all in one arena. And it's funny because it makes me think of, your dad's favorite word, what is it, serendipity versus chance. I mean, there's a reasoning for serendipity. There's a planned action of things that occur, and I don't mean planned by any master planner. Yet,
Well, I do think there
in
is a
the
master
alignment.
planner. I don't agree with that. I think there is a master planner. The master planner is the all, it's the higher self. Go ahead. Sorry, you're giving me this look. Go ahead.
Well, that's I'm I'm saying in line of the events of a master planner because we're the master planners. So when you take it to that, there's, it's funny that this book says, this has this great two lines here that says the masses of people are carried along obedient to environment, the wills and desires of others stronger than themselves, heredity, suggestion, and other outward causes moving them about like pawns on the chessboard of life. But the masters, rising to the plane above, dominate their moods, characters, qualities, and powers, as well as the environment surrounding them, and become movers instead of pawns. They help to play the game of life instead of being played and moved about by other wills and environment. They use the principle instead of being its tools. The masters obey the causation of the higher planes, but they help to rule on their own plane. Mm-hmm. And there's something really powerful in that. And so we're kind of actually agreeing. That's why I kind of gave you the face, because in alignment with the cause and effect and saying serendipity or chance and throwing a coin up in the air, I mean, I'm supporting what you're saying in line of what occurs.
So I think so my answer to that is that when you flip a coin, it comes out heads or tails. And I understand it's based on, ultimately it's going to balance each other, but we have no idea how many times the coin's been tossed before we toss it. And we have no idea how many more times we're going to do it afterwards. So that serendipitous or idea of something's occurred is because, or what the effect is. I mean, I can't go back in time and figure out I'm here doing this. And can I ever go back to the very initial cause of it? I mean, I don't know if I could, but I can't as I discuss it. Yet I can say, I'm doing this today. What will the effect be? I can't do that either. But what I can say is I'm doing this right now, and it's a culmination of what got me here, and it's going to push forward something else. And so when people talk about serendipitous, or luck or miracle or any of that stuff, it's just because I'm supporting now what you said. It's because there was a cause, because we can't define it. It came from a higher vibration, a different plane, a higher plane. Something occurred there which affected, had an event here. And so when you talk about the masters going up to that higher plane, that's really what they're doing. Here we have cause and effect. Yet, and how do you access that higher plane? Well, it's the principles that you just said: polarity, mentalism, all of those. Because the universe is mental. We're going back to the very first conversation. The universe is mental. Yet, so we're and of course this is building upon. So those masters, if I'm going to use that, of Hermeticism, is they are at a point where mentally they're creating the event. They're participating in the events that are the cause to the effects here.
So they're movers instead of pawns.
Yes.
Right.
So where I'm going is the big part that to me is the, oh, I get it part, is that we think someone was lucky. We think that something, you would just, who would have thought? It's what we always say.
Somebody did.
Yeah, who would have thought? Well, someone did at some level to create it. And so I would say our hope is to be able to be a mover at that level, instead of just being here. And in all honesty, I do believe and even in the book, they won't talk about free will and determinism. They say that they're not going to
Mm.
discuss it. And so therefore I'm not going to, but I will, because we're talking
Mhm.
about the Kybalion. We're not talking about what Susan Barbaro thinks. Who cares what Susan Barbaro
This
thinks?
is a
Yet,
discussion of what you're
exactly.
contemplating and thinking.
Yeah.
So wait a minute, and you're part of the all. So wait a minute, let's use the principles here. And
Yeah.
whoa, we got her, we got her.
So I think that, I mean, the biggest piece of this is when we sit there and think, wow, how'd that happen? Or wow, how did so and so get so lucky? Or geez, that could never happen to me. Well, geez, that could never happen to me. Is that just a blank statement? Or is that through mentalism creating the event? Is that the cause of the next effect within our lives?
And it's so funny because the leverage of that is, and I'm trying so hard not to say the weasel clause part because that comes in. The leverage of that is that when they say when you toss up the coin, both the average and the single toss come under the law of cause and
Right.
effect. And so if everything inevitably comes under the law of cause and effect, it becomes the chicken or the egg. You can't go back to anything. Everything is linked. So you can't really make a determination. And when cause and effect is based on events, and you went all the way back, you described it beautifully, all the way back to, the creative energy of the all and what occurs. And it's a chain of, there's a chain of events and there's a link and it's a cause and an effect. That's all beautiful and that's all great to get that there's a principle of cause and effect. Yet so then how do you use that? And I think sometimes in the awareness of that you can use that,
Well,
linking it in with the principle itself. I mean,
so
so
did
are
you
you doing
so
something or not?
did you not hear that you just said, and this is with the Kybalion, that each toss is a effect of all previous tosses, and I would say all future tosses.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yet it's still that individual toss as well,
Right.
right? So isn't that the whole idea of determinism as well as free will? The determinism is how many times it's been tossed before and will be tossed subsequent. That's determinism. And then free will is that individual toss. So in terms, so it's fascinating because if you think about that and you can control a little bit of what occurs on this plane, you
Well,
would think that you go into both. You would go into the cause
well, the real
as you can. Go ahead.
the real question is, what are you controlling? Because the real question is, what are you controlling? Because if they're all inevitably a part of the principle of the cause and effect, because you beautifully mentioned the link and the events and all that stuff. So what is it that you're trying to control?
Okay, I use the word control purposely, and because I was going to make a point, but we won't go there. I'll just jump to the fact that, okay, so if you have any impact on what occurs and the way that you approach what occurs in your life, you have two things. You have the mentalism, polarity, all those things that affects. I'm going to use a coin toss. That individual toss is the mentalism, polarity, how you look at it. Yet the determinism, you have some impact in going into a higher plane to create the causes to help impact the effects.
Okay.
So that's not a control. I used it because I was going to actually say, because what I was going to say is, if you look at all of that in the grand scheme, what is control?
What is it?
Did you not listen to me? I'm talking to the freaking wall.
Oh, that's not really nice to say.
So
There's a cause and effect right there of that that comment to me. So the funny thing is even just the simplicity of saying, okay, great, there's a cause and effect to everything. Great, whoop-de-doo. What's that going to do for me? Even when there's any event that you experience, it's the cause of something. It's also the effect of something, and it's linked to something. And you're a part of that, and that makes you grander. I mean, there's a
So
simplicity
why
to that.
study these principles?
Why not?
Why?
Because
What's the goal?
it depends on what you want the goal to be.
What's
I
your
have my
goal?
own personal goal. That's my own personal goal.
Well,
To
because
move and to grow and to expand and to understand and to have awareness. There are a number of goals. What are yours?
well, where I'm going with it is that I'm looking to live my life differently. I'm being personal. My goal is to live my life differently, to understand my life differently, to have more of an appreciation and an understanding and awareness of what exactly is occurring and how I can best participate in a way that I choose to participate. And so when I look at this, and I'm not looking to control my life because I can't control it. On a higher level, there's places that I'm going to go and things I'm going to do that, and there's things I've done and places I've been. And, I'm not trying to control it. I'm trying when I'm questioning things or I'm doubting things, how can I be in that space more powerfully? Not to control anyone or control anything, but to be in awareness. So I feel the empowerment of what I actually am, what I have power over. And it's not control. I have power over my own mind, my own perspective. And as I open my mind and my eyes, I see things more. So that's my personal goal. So when you ask me about control and what are these principles to me are understanding better.
Mm-hmm.
So when you talk about like control, no, I'm not trying to control anything, but I'm trying to live my life in a more, authentic way. And so that's when I talk about this, because you asked me about power or control. What are you trying to control? And it's not a control issue. It's an understanding. Again, I can't do art. But the more I understand that what goes into creating shadows and perspective and depth, and then I can look at a piece of art and then I'm like, I can have so much more gratification and understanding. Doesn't mean I'm a better artist.
So the analogy to take from what you just said, which is clear and concise using art, is if you replace the word art for these principles, that's exactly what's occurring. That's exactly what I said in a different way, of course. And that's exactly what's occurring. So you take these principles and you use these principles and they become a conscious part of a laws that are inescapable, and they're not laws as they're known here, but they're laws that are inescapable because they're in actuality things that are moving and occurring, and they're laws. And if you take them and make them you're self-conscious of them, then we can't be blind to them. We can't be unaware, and having that awareness of them, they're tools and resources. And what you want to do with them or not want to do with them, or how you want to describe them, or where they arise on your spectrum. They kind of blend and integrate into each other. And so when you do that, you're and I agree with what you're saying. You're deciding how you said, I don't want to take your words. I'll take my own words and how to live better here, how to experience better here, but the way that you want to do it.
Exactly. And so when you say, what do you control? It's not a control. It's an understanding. It's working with the laws and working with the understanding in a more powerful way. I'm not trying to control anything.
And the cool part about that is using the laws to overcome the laws. And that's really something incredible. This has been a production of EI Publishing in association with EI Alliance. Listen to other episodes and visit eipublishing.com for the transcript of this series as an ebook and to find more energized podcasts and books. Find New Threads' self-titled album, New Threads, on iTunes, Spotify, Bandcamp, or at newthreads.us. Thank you for listening.